I still remember in the 90s with Senator Spooner pretty well saying is that the Constitution and Bill of Goods does not have my name written on it. Therefore, I'm not responsible for it. I am not, it's not of me. It's not of myself here, and therefore I don't have any obligation to obey it. And Friday night, I mean, essentially, both me and Buddy Tucker agreed is that, you know, where did the Constitution and Bill of Goods go wrong? Answer, it went wrong when it was created. Essentially, you had a bunch of lawyers and Masons get together and decide that they were going to set up a consolidated government. And they pretended that by dividing it up into three branches that somehow it would, keep jealously the powers separate. Separation of powers, checks and balances. Well, folks, it don't work that way. Because it doesn't really matter whether or not you have a Supreme Court or a president, Obongo, or a Congress with, Barnier and Nancy Pelosi or whatever. In either case, they all are going to live off of white people and white men and white taxpayers. Pay for their notions. So essentially you end up having three branches of government all out to live off of you. To go ahead and turn you into a wage slave, into a, essentially a wage and tax slave. And folks, it was not even 10 years before what Lord Cornwallis allegedly wrote George Washington at Yorktown took place. Within 10 years, you end up having the Bank of England pretty well telling this new, quote, independent republic what to do. The half-Jew Alexander Hamilton. Well, hey, he was Rothschild's partner, the Jew boy's partner for the Bank of England, for the City of London. And that's what you've had here, is that throughout history, you've had these Jews wander in. And when it comes down to it, they like controlling everything. But like they say, if we control the coinage and the courts, we can let the white rabble have the rest. And that's exactly what they've done. They've gone ahead and wandered into what they say money is and gotten the power to print or to create whatever they say money is, and they live off the usury of it. And what they do is that they, cause this money that they create to have interest paid on top of it. So in the 1930s, during the, quote, Great Depression, what these dirty Jews did was they got in control of the banking system in 1913, and actually had it before then. What they did is that they deliberately destroyed the ability for most whites to own a farm and most whites to own a small business. Now this morning I was listening to this Truth Militia radio, and I guess this Joe Adams didn't show up for at least about the first hour or so they were reduced to talking about having whites form their own business. But folks, it's not as easy as that. It's not near as easy as that. In fact, it's rather difficult altogether. So the entire point of forcing people, essentially what they did is they made the vast majority of whites into wage and tax slaves on their own land in the 1930s. And then went ahead and had the greatest degeneration destroy Nazi Germany and Nazi Germany's own independent way of living without Jews and without bankers and without international controls, where essentially the German people worked together to ship out the Jews. Not perfectly. You had Jews and you had Mischlings, and in some cases, like Adolf Hitler or Goering says, well, I determine who's a Jew. And I guess if they ended up needing that particular Jew, they did so. We've always had Jews go ahead and betray their Jew brothers and show portions of the Talmud or whatever to Martin Luther. I mean, Jews are a parasitic, amoral bunch here. In many cases, they're not loyal to other Jews. But what they've done is that they have essentially used Whiggers to go ahead and act against other Whiggers. They've gone ahead and used the idea of having power over others here. And then they pretend that their little elections, which are not fair, free, open, honest elections, mean something. And that's what I was doing, is that I was protesting. I was going ahead protesting, and now I have about, 90 days to, essentially today was the last day to go ahead and, pay them taxes. So I went ahead and sent it off to the, in the mail to the Newton County collector over in the Neosho. And it's postmarked today, so it'll be good. And then I went down to City Hall and paid the taxes of $27 there. So, in case, what they pretend is that this is a representative form of government. This is a representative form of government. This is a Republican form of government, to where people don't elect themselves by direct democracy, but rather they choose representatives. And these representatives essentially end up having really no ability other than to get reelected in many cases. They don't have the benefit of honesty. They don't have the benefit of integrity. They don't have the benefit of anything other than running around collecting money from corporations and from Jews, and essentially buying advertisements to tell Whiggers how honest they are. Now I'm looking at old pictures of Jew York and these big old screens and stuff like that. And folks, it looks like